It is the worst India-China border clash in 45 years. 3 Indian Army personnel, including 1 Army officer and 2 soldiers, have been martyred at the Galwan Valley in eastern Ladakh. We are learning that no firearms were used and the deaths were due to stone pelting. Army sources say there are casualties on the Chinese side as well. Even as we speak, brigadier-level talks between India and China are going on at the LAC to diffuse tensions. While back in New Delhi, Prime Minister Modi was briefed by Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh over the LAC flashpoint. Before that, he also held a meeting with Foreign Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, CDS Bipin Rawat and 3 service chiefs. Our executive editor Zaka Jacob now takes you through the area where the face-off is happening.
This dispute along the line of actual control has been running for a number of years now. The line of actual control itself came into existence post the 1962 war as a working sort of boundary between India and China. It's 4,000 kilometers long, a little over 4,000 kilometers. It runs all the way from Ladakh in the western side to Arunachal in the eastern side. It's over 4,000 kilometers. It's the border that separates India and China. The line of actual control, like I said, came into existence after the 1962 war. Now, the lines run over glaciers, over snow deserts, over mountains. Like I said, it's divided into 3 sectors. Western, which is essentially Ladakh, the middle sector, which is Uttarakhand, and the eastern sector, which is largely Arunachal and Sikkim. The western sector is the one which has seen the maximum amount of trouble of late. We've seen this in 2013 in Dipsang, in 2014 in Chumar, these repeated instances have happened over the last many years. Ladakh, the current flashpoint that's happening is at Pangang So, which is the lake, 2/3 of which is under Chinese control and 1/3 of it is under Indian control. Then in the hot springs area, and the third area is Galwan Valley. Why Galwan is important is because up until now, up until this skirmish, which began on the 5th of May, it was always accepted that Galwan was Indian territory. The Chinese are trying to change that. They're trying to change the status quo, and hence this incursion in Galwan. Both sides clearly have differing perceptions of the LAC. Remember, this is a line that is not demarcated either on a map or, for that matter, on the ground. There have been attempts to exchange maps in the past, but both sides have not been able to come to a conclusion. The last military-to-military agreement that we have was in 2013. That's the border, the Boundary Defence Cooperation Agreement, the BDCA, which was a follow-up to the 1993 Agreement on Peace and Tranquility. That agreement was signed in 2013 when Li Keqiang, the Chinese premier, came to India in his first visit. There have been 22 rounds of talks since 2003, when Brajesh Mishra and Dai Bingguo were appointed by the Indian and Chinese governments as the special representatives for the border talks. It has continued all the way through up until now between Mr. Dowell and Mr. Yang Jiechi, but there has been no resolution to the boundary dispute.
And Shreya is joining us live. Shreya, you were talking about how the 2 sides have had a completely different reaction to this face-off. On Indian side, we have seen restraint, caution, and on the Chinese side, the statement coming from the Foreign Affairs Ministry spokesperson is putting the blame on India.
That's exactly right. While China has their version of events on what took place yesterday night, what triggered off that violent clash between Indian and Chinese troops at Galwan Valley, the Indian side so far is not saying anything. But there are some details that we are picking up by way of our sources, Maria. This is what sources are telling us. First of all, they're telling us that these violent clashes went on till almost midnight yesterday. We are also picking up that, on the 6th, when the Major General level talks happened, there was a roadmap that was agreed upon as far as disengagement is concerned in certain areas, not Pagangso, but as far as Galwan Valley is concerned, as far as Hot Springs is concerned, there was a roadmap that was agreed upon. Now, the commanding officer of 16 Bihar was in patrol point 14 to see that there is compliance on that roadmap that both India and China have agreed upon. This is where the Chinese side was to step back some 5 kilometers. Something happens. Now, we are not exactly sure what it was, but something happens. But you see Chinese troops go back and then return And this is when this violent clash breaks out. The first person to be attacked, we are being told, was the commanding officer of 16 Bihar. He's hit with stones. There's a steel rod that is used to hit him as well. He takes a fall. Other soldiers who were accompanying him then get into the clash. Seeing what is happening, soldiers in the rear come back. The Chinese are sending their reinforcements as well. So there was a sizable number of troops that were clashing yesterday, which is why we are being told that the number of casualties, I beg your pardon, the number of people who've been injured on both sides will be high. Those figures have still not been put out by the Indian Army. We'll just wait for those figures to come out. But we are being told that this is roughly the sequence of events where these violent clashes started when the Chinese came and attacked the commanding officer. Indian troops rush in. There's a violent face-off. It continues till 12 o'clock. And early next morning is when talks between senior level officers of both armies talk, because obviously the one thing that you need to do after you have suffered casualties on both sides, and China is accepting that there have been casualties on their side as well, though they're not putting out any figures to that, is to cool down tempers. So those talks that started at approximately 7:30 or so still continue. What my sources within the Indian Army are telling me is this: they are saying we'll expect a statement. You can expect a statement possibly from us once those talks get over and we know which way the dialogue is going, if at all. But one thing is clear, Maria, obviously the defense minister was one of the first people to be briefed. After that, the prime minister was briefed as well. And when the defense minister was meeting with the CDS, was meeting with the three chiefs, was meeting with the EAM, the idea was not just to take stock of what has happened, but to see what needs to be done next, what India's response should be. And as a first step, it looks like, A, India wants to dial down the temperatures, and B, they want to try and resolve the issue through talks. But many people can say that, talks have been going on, serious talks have been going on for the last 10 days. And look what it has come to.
But Shreya, you said that the talks have been going on since 7:30 a.m. this morning. And where exactly is it taking place? Could you give us a sense of the terrain again? Because, as you were saying, that it's Hot Springs and Galwan Valley where we have seen the different ideas of the line of actual control. But as far as, and that is the reason why this tension has been continuing and has only escalated.
Two things. First of all, the first question, let me answer your first question first. You asked me, where are these talks going on? They're going on in the Galwan Valley region, because this is where the clashes broke out. Secondly, very importantly, you pointed out this whole, idea about a difference in perception of the LAC. The only time we've heard from the Ministry of External Affairs when the first set of clashes broke out was that, India is sticking to its own side of the border. Don't accuse us of crossing the LAC. That is not what we are doing. We know where our line of actual control starts and ends. We keep to our end. You keep to your end. That is the only time we heard from the Ministry of External Affairs, essentially, debunking China's claim that all these conflicts arise largely because there is a difference in perception. The Indian side had come out to say this is not a question of difference of perception. We know, our soldiers know where our line of control is, where our boundary is. We are not crossing over. In this case, China is accusing India of crossing across the LAC not once but twice, therefore provoking them into this violent clash. We haven't, as I said, heard from the Indian side as to why exactly this clash broke out.
All right, Shreya Dhondiyal, thank you so much for joining us. And joining me now is General Bikram Singh, former Army Chief. General Singh, thank you so much for your time. First time since 1975, at a time when talks were on of disengagement. What is your opinion of what could have possibly gone wrong? Why do you think this flare-up happened?
Well, firstly, Maria, let me start by saying that it's really an unfortunate incident that we lost a colonel and 2 jawans. But of course, in that, I would say, engagement, even the Chinese have lost 3 to 4 of their personnel. The PLA has lost 3 to 4 personnel. So in other words, our soldiers have given back the right form. They have shown their grit. They have shown their willpower to defend every inch of our territory. But when you ask me as to what is happening, my assessment from what's going on is that perhaps China doesn't appear to be accepting to disengage the way they have announced earlier. And the very fact that, they are claiming that our people went across and
Yes.
that's how the problem started, it goes to show that the place where they have come to, they are perceiving that as their own, which is incorrect, which is our area. And actually speaking, if you ask me honestly, I do not know what exactly happened on ground, because as the former chief, it's not correct on my part to be nosy and call people and try and find out. I am basing my assessment entirely on the inputs available in the open, public domain. But what I feel is that it is something which is going to be a long haul. It's not going to get resolved very soon. I feel we will have to live with it and continue with our strategy to deal with it. And just a word about it, if you want me to tell you what exactly I feel we need to be doing. But you're welcome to ask me the next question before I get into that.
Yes, General Singh, does India really view this as a deliberate escalation from the Chinese side? And can we really de-escalate from here onwards? And how do you really view the fact that no firearms were used, as the Indian Army is saying, and so are the Chinese saying?
Maria, look, some of these fist fights that have taken place in the last few years, have been used for optics by both sides, India as well as China. And therefore, it's one way to sort of, I would say, induce and enhance the nationalist fervor in both the sides, both China as well as India. And I think it has to be curtailed to a point, because beyond a point where it begins to impinge on the national interests, I think we got to be mindful. And that's what I go on to next point is the information operations. You see, whenever any activity occurs, whenever the firepower is used or force is used or the military resources are used, they are always accompanied by compatible information operations. And information operations target various stakeholders and various key players in the environment, be it their political leadership, their military leadership, PLA per se, be it the people of the youth of China, which today definitely is in a tremendous nationalist fervor, as you see on the social media.
Right.
There are targets to be addressed in China. There are targets to be addressed in India. There are targets to be addressed in Pakistan and other places. So information operations are controlled at the highest level, and they have got to be done very imaginatively. It has been done. I'm not denying that it's not been done. But I think, I've been saying this on a number of channels, trying to take a tactical operation into the strategic arena and trying to, play around with it as if something at national level has happened is wrong. But now that this has happened, willy-nilly, tactical incident has entered the strategic arena. It has entered the political circles. It has entered the diplomatic circles. And therefore, henceforth, the resolution of this imbroglio would have to occur at the political, diplomatic, and the military level. At the military level, of course, we've got to continue to look into the eyes of the adversary. There's no question of giving even an inch of our area. And I think our soldiers have performed commendably. I salute the colonel. I salute the two Jawans, the brave hearts, who've done a wonderful job, where their soul rests in peace. And I take this opportunity also to convey my condolences to their families and to the battalion, the Bihar battalion, to which these great warriors belong. Very unfortunate this has happened. But what I'm saying is that,
yes,
given what has happened, the resolve of the military certainly is far more strengthened. But I would say there's a need to exercise caution at the operational and the strategic level, depending on how the nation wants to deal with it. You see, after all, the national interests are paramount. So it has to come out from the MEA, it has to come out from the political leadership as to what exactly is to be done. And you would have seen the statements that came out from the Honorable Raksha Mantri some time back. He said that we want to have good relations with China. So and after that, no statement has come. So primarily going on the statement which he came out with a couple of days back, I think in fitness of things, while upholding his statement, I think we need to be balanced in our approach. At the tactical level, we should not blink. We must continue with resolve to counter every move of theirs. But at the national level, at the strategic level, keeping in mind how the political leadership decides to deal with this, I think we have to posture ourselves accordingly.
Okay, so since you're talking about the political leadership here, let me ask about how the army is viewing this as a violation of the 2013 Border Defence Cooperation Agreement between the two nations?
Look, it has withstood the test of time. There's not denying the fact. But then, as I said earlier, here is a case in point which has actually proven otherwise. But I still say that the mechanisms and the rules of engagement on ground are pretty robust. The very fact that the bullets have not been fired, it is only that stones have been used and sticks have been used. That's what the report says. Threshold of the use of kinetic military means. So I won't say that the Border Defence Cooperation Agreement of 2013 is defunct today. No, it is not. But yes, definitely we need to strengthen it in terms of the political initiatives. We had that, as you know very well, that post Doklam, the prime ministers and President Xi Jinping met first at Wuhan, then of course in Tamil Nadu. So that meeting must go on. And it will happen. But then the point is, I think we need to ensure that at the ground level, the morale of people does not go down. Before I started, I came to you, Maria. I got a message from one of the warriors who was right in the front. His question was only on the morale. Now, mind you, he's not in 14 Corps, but he's in Eastern Command. This young officer tells me that, we should not look meeky, as far as the Chinese are concerned at the tactical level. And I'm certain our soldiers are tigers. They have been looking into the eyes of the Chinese, and I'm sure it will continue that way. And we've proven it to Chinese. Chinese know it very well that it's not the army of 62. And I've said this earlier as well. We are a very robust army. We are a very competent professional army. We are an army that has actually evolved into a very responsive element of national power, very accountable and very potent element of national power. So we are well poised to deal with any situation, let me tell you. But yes, as part of our strategy, we need to keep our guard up and be actually ready to take on any escalation.
While we look
should not be found voting.
Yeah, while we look at this simmering tension almost becoming the new normal, General Singh, a commanding officer's martyrdom must be jolting for the regiment posted there, from a terrible sense of loss on one hand to anger on the other. Can you please tell our viewers about the relationship a CO shares with the regiment?
Well, a commanding officer is the father of the unit. Those 800 odd people who are under him, 800 to 900, depending on how many people are posted. But I'm taking at an average around 800. He's a father of everybody. And they treat him like a father. And because he's taking care of their aspirations. He's taking care of their needs. And mind you, in all good battalions, in every infantry battalion, artillery, engineer, regiment, I would say it's an Indian Army's ethos. Even when Jawan is on leave, the commanding officer and the company commanders continue to make a call to the Jawan, to the JCO, to the NCO when he's on leave to find out how they are. But that's the kind of commitment. I mean, it's 24/7, 365. There's no question that, an officer, company commander is on leave or a battalion commander is on leave and he abdicates his responsibility. Yes, he has to empower his second in command and he trains him very well. He makes sure that he's, given that liberty to command the battalion. But that notwithstanding, as a father, he continues to call up the second in command almost every day to find out if all is well and how things are going. And of course, a commanding officer in every good battalion is accessible to every soldier. Mind you, and let me tell you, as a commanding officer, you'd be surprised when I tell the corporate sector, when I speak to them on leadership and morale, they are surprised. I know of corporate houses which have got just about 100 odd people and they don't know their names. A battalion commander knows the name of every soldier who's posted on his strength. And some of them know the number. If there are 5 Mukesh Kumars in the unit, the battalion commander will say, call number so-and-so Mukesh Kumar from so-and-so company. I want to meet him. Now, that's the kind of commitment. It is not, no other organization, I would say, has this kind of a culture. So it's a big loss for the battalion. The morale is definitely down, I would say. But then that is the beauty about the Indian Army. The Indian Army has tremendous resilience to bounce back. It shall bounce back with its leadership commitment. It's a big loss, which the unit will not forget. But I'm certain that this loss is going to further enhance, strengthen the resolve of the battalion to continue to dig its heel and make sure that they defend every inch of the ground.
Last question to you, sir.
What they're supposed to do.
Last question to you, sir. Opposition is asking the government to explain the situation at the LAC to the country. How do you think the government has handled it so far?
Look, Maria, as I said earlier, information operations are a very, very important line of operation in any military exercise initiative that is undertaken. And as I said, it is done at the highest level. You and I do not know what's happening at the moment at the highest level. So I think we should leave it to the political leadership, to their wisdom, leave it to the Ministry of External Affairs. Mind you, the present foreign minister of ours, I know him very well. When I was the chief, he was the ambassador in China. I mean, he's a master on Chinese relationship. He understands it beautifully. Then he was the foreign secretary. Today he's a foreign minister of ours. So he understands. On the other hand, on the military front, look at the present army commander. This gentleman was DA in China. He's commanded a brigade there, a battalion, I beg your pardon, a division there. He's commanded the corps over there, 14 Corps, before he became the chief of staff of Northern Command, and presently he's an army commander. I know him personally. When I was in the military operations as a colonel, he was my G1 in the military operations. So he's a very competent officer. What I'm trying to tell you is that leadership, both diplomatic, both political, both, third one, the army, it's a very robust, very strong, very, I would say, leadership with tremendous amount of intellectual sophistication, with a tremendous amount of intellectual prowess, people who understand the contours, they understand the strategic arena, and I'm certain they'll take decisions. So when statements are not given now, there's a reason behind it. And because, the information in information operations is shared on need-to-know basis.
Okay.
And I suppose this is being taken care of. And very soon you'll have, I suppose, the Raksha Mantri perhaps coming up again and giving a statement, or the Army Chief doing it. It will be definitely done. Or for that matter, even the External Affairs Ministry.
All right, General Bikram Singh, former Army Chief, thank you so much for your time and sharing your thoughts about what is being done, what really is the way forward. We are slipping to a short break. This remains Out of Focus.